Who'd want to be in bed? Have you ever tried to make a video? I tell you what, I'm having one of those days. The words aren't coming out properly. I'm making mistakes. Had to turn the screen around. Look out, I'm at the wrong elevation. Move the camera, will you? Oh, I've got to get this right. You're going to have to bear with me today. I'm having one of them terrible mornings. Can't be too terrible. I'm in the bush, aren't I? Oh, that's pretty good. Now think about it that way, Peter. I've done it again. I've set the camera up. I can't see the screen. I hope I'm in view. So let's get going. Got the camera angle wrong again, Peter. January, summer, and it's been rather hot. Been in the mid to high 30 degrees Celsius. One would suppose it's not worth going deer hunting, but it is. Trouble with this time of year is, if you shoot an animal in the morning, the flies are going to be very happy. The hunter's not going to be happy. Trying to keep the flies off it. Going to have to go home or lose the meat. That's one of the disadvantages, or a couple of the disadvantages of summer. But there are advantages. Great time to hunt, great time to hunt. A lot of people don't hunt in summer. They're missing the opportunity. Early morning can be really good. It's still cool in the morning, generally, not always. Some days it's quite warm. This morning we were about 11 degrees, just on daylight. It'll hold that for a while. 9 o'clock, get rather warm by 9 o'clock in the morning. A good time to be out of the bush too. Little things like this start to come out. They're around 18 degrees Celsius, or with a bit of sun on them, they become a little bit active. We don't want to stand on one of them, do we? You ever stood on one? I shouldn't laugh. My brother's been hit on the boot. My mate Donnie thought, what's that wriggling under his foot? I, fortunately, have only managed to put my foot down about that far from several over the years. But we get used to them, we get used to them. Yeah, good reason to wear gaiters. Can't show you the gaiters because they're down here and I'm not moving the camera and haven't got a camera operator. A pair of gaiters, I like a pair of gaiters. Things I prefer not to attach themselves to my legs. Learn about snake bite. If you get whacked, yeah, you're in a, well, I was going to say trouble, you're really not. You're in a bit of deep shit actually. So there's a few things we can do hunting in summer. One, a first aid kit, particularly well equipped to deal with snake bite. The other, a personal locator beacon. We'll have to put a photo up because I wear mine on my belt. Oh, I can't get it out because it's attached. Oh, I can actually. It's attached to my belt. The reason it's attached to my belt, I can't lose it. It's on my hip. It's no good in the bloody day pack. You fall over, have a bad injury, you can't get it out, can you? Anyway, PLB, personal locator beacon. Several brands, several type. Highly recommended if you're going to hunt in the summer. Actually, if you're a solo hunter, definitely get one. Get one. It can make a big difference, eh? Now the helicopter mightn't come straight away. In fact, generally it doesn't, but it will summon help. You break a leg, you're in a bad way. Get to our age of me brother, me mates, old ticker playing up, yeah, you're in a bad way too. Yeah, lots of things. Jumping jacks, I'm anaphylactic to jumping jacks. Carry an EpiPen. Told you I'm in one of those days. I've just done a big take on hydration and then realised the camera wasn't turned on. So this time we'll wave, yep, camera's on, I can see my hand moving in the screen, right? I was talking about hydration, very, very important. It's important all year, but particularly in summer. I had one friend in New Zealand, got a helicopter ride. Yeah, helicopter ride he didn't want, he dehydrated. I've had another acquaintance here just a couple of years ago. Walked into his stalking camp in the hot weather where he had stashed water. He'd planned ahead, hadn't thought about the UV effect on plastic. Yeah, didn't have much water when he got there. It took the smile off his face. And I myself, along with countless deer hunters, have got rather thirsty some days. I have dehydrated in the bush, so be warned. A good bladder, plenty of water. Not the bladder down here, a bladder here. Yeah, get the bladder, make sure it's clean. It's worth putting some Milton tablets in, or the sterilising tablets you get for babies' bottles. Every year, every summer, or before summer I should say, mine gets a clean out, gets a soak. Clean water. Always clean water. Hint, don't matter how thirsty you are, don't drink out of a stag swallow. Now I do know a person who was very thirsty and did that one day. And what we have to remember is when stags wallow, they urinate in the water. And I am told the taste is rather disgusting. You can test it for yourself if you don't believe me. Anyway, we're having a morning. Yep, we're having a morning recording. Yeah, some people are called. I think this whole. Well, what we'll do here, I think this whole video will be all bloody bloopers, as they say. Cut. Right, let's get back on track. Right, we're going to try and get back on track here. I'm in southeast Victoria, in the mountains obviously. Have a look at the mountains, right? And it's summer. We're at 700 metres elevation, roughly. In the distance, considerably higher. I'll look it up. I'll put a little note at how high it is at the back. But where I'm going with this is, in summer, there's a very big difference in the temperature relative to the elevation. I drove up onto those ridges the other day. In the distance it was 32 degrees when I left here. When I got to the river it was 30 degrees. When I got up to the top over there it was 27 degrees. When I got into the more thickly vegetated country, the mountain ash country, it dropped down to 23 degrees. That's a huge difference in temperature. So where I'm going with this is when we're hunting, we don't want to be where it's 36 degrees or 40 degrees. We want to be in that cooler weather. Not so much because of the deer, but for our own comfort. It makes a big difference. This country's cooler. Have a look. A lot of it's not suitable for stalking. We're going to have to do a lot of looking in this cool country to find good stalkable country. But if we look hard enough, we'll find places like this. It's been hot, been in the mid 30 degrees, around 36 degrees Celsius for a couple of days in a row. We've had a cool change come in. Oh, the cool change was nice, I can tell you. But what I've done, I've come into one of the cooler gully systems. Now in the bush, it's not all the same. Some gullies are cooler. They hold the damp in the summer a little bit better when we get those mountain dews and things. Comes in, damps this all down. Got caught once, woke up, everything was wet. The dew come in the middle of summer. We're in a cool gully here. We're on the side that doesn't get the first bit of sun. In winter, the other side of the gully gets the early morning sun. This side doesn't get it. In the summer, the other side of the gully, just like in winter, gets the early morning sun. This side doesn't get it. It's warm weather. Where's it cooler? Where's there more feed? Where's the vegetation greener? Out of the sun, isn't it? Where do you think the deer will be? With a bit of luck, they'll be on this face. I haven't just come in here. I haven't just wandered in. I know what goes on in here. That's the advantage of acquired knowledge. That's one of the advantages of not hunting all over the state, trying to find that big monster, the mythical stag that we all look for. I call them dreaming stags. We all dream about those really big stags. They exist, of course, but the advantage to the new hunter is build on your knowledge and build on that country in an area. Just don't go all over the state. It's not worth doing. This side gets a fair bit of shade. Obvious reason why I'm here. Summer, going to be cooler. Cooler for me, cooler for the deer. And we have a hint, right? It's not fresh, but the importance of this, if you look at one of my previous videos, told you it's a bad day, videos. Well, look at one of my previous videos on stag camps. You will know the significance of this. Another thing I thought of, in summer, I'll wear a different hat. Yeah, different hat. Plenty of ventilation in this hat. That makes a difference too. And by the way, another hint. That's summer hunting. That's the sort of thing that can happen in summer in this country. Weather can change quickly. Good idea to look at the weather forecast, isn't it? Yeah. But with a change in weather comes a change in so many things. The way the deer will behave, and more importantly, the comfort for the hunter will change. It just dropped 10 degrees with 8.5 millimetre of rain in probably 10 or 15 minutes. We've had a lot of lightning, and that in turn may, in some cases where it was going to ground, start a fire. No, none of us like a fire in this country, I can tell you. Have a look. I've got a jacket on. That's how quickly things can change. But now, how do we take advantage of it? This is a spectacular evening for stalking. We've had hot weather, we're now having cool weather, the bush has quietened down from the rain, the breeze has dropped right off. It's a good little breeze, just enough breeze that we can work into the wind. So there's a lot of advantages with this change in the weather, from stinking hot to where you feel like doing nothing except laying under a tree or in the river or getting your hydration up, if you know what I mean. But now, what a magic night to go stalking. I should say evening. In summer, deer sign can be very difficult to find. The ground's very hard. But what isn't so difficult to find are the droppings. These are always a very good clue. Now these are very dry, cracked, firm as anything. But what we've got to remember is, at the moment we're having days in excess of 30 degrees. We've had several days over 36 degrees. So of course these droppings are going to look dry and very old. We've got a deer track here. Right, now this has been made when the ground's been a little bit more moist. Probably a week ago we had 8 mil of rain here and things were damper. This ground's still damp and cool to feel. Pays to check out puddles on the side of the road. There's deer tracks here. They weren't here yesterday, so it's obviously happened last night. The tracks from the puddle lead across the road. I can see them quite clearly and they go up the hill. So, this is the clue, isn't it? Always worth checking out puddles, and particularly these dusty roads. These dusty roads will show up deer tracks just as well as the soft muddy road. Now I'm not going to do anything with them at the moment because I'm making a lot of noise, aren't I? But I will come back and I will go and look where the deer tracks are leading me. Deer tracks in the bush can be extremely difficult and hard to find, particularly because it's so dry and the ground so hard. However, roads are a
different proposition altogether, particularly dirt, dusty roads like this. Deer will leave a good mark where they cross the road. So from that, it's a useful tool to use to try and find deer. This dusty road surface, what a tracker's paradise, eh? Wombat tracks, deer tracks, bird tracks, boot prints everywhere. Oh, they'll be mine. Yeah. You've got to love, you do, you've got to love tracking the road in summer. These dusty roads, what a canvas for deer tracks, eh? Everywhere. I shouldn't say everywhere. We've got one here. No, we haven't. 1, 2. We got 2 here. Well, I'm talking to the camera. I've just been honked at by a deer over the bank. Shows you the value of deer tracks on the road. And it also suggests we shouldn't talk so loud. Oop. Dusty summer roads. A great canvas for tracking. Here's where a snake slid across the road. So it's not just deer tracks we're looking for. The deer are still visiting the scrapes. This is the second scrape I've looked at today, and it's got fresh deer marks. The other one further up also has fresh deer marks. So things that we think are important in the winter are also important in the summer. This wallow is a focal point for deer. We've got reasonably fresh deer marks here where a deer's come and passed through. It hasn't tried to wallow, could be for several reasons. Oh, one, it's hard as a rock. We can observe this wallow from a considerable distance, 40 metres up there, 100 metres over there. So we can use that to our advantage when we're stalking. While we don't normally associate wallows with hunting in summer, they are still a very important focal point for deer. Second wallow I visited in 2 days. Both wallows have had deer at them. There's been a deer walk through here last night. I know it's last night because we had heavy rain until around 7:30 last night, and then it stopped. We have marks that have had no rain on them and in a little bit of mud here. Wallowing by sambar deer is a wet weather activity. They require mud to wallow. However, as I pointed out yesterday when I visited another wallow, they're still a focal point for sambar deer. They're still a place that's visited throughout the year, including summer. So we can use that to our advantage. We know there will be deer passing through here, and we know they will be in the vicinity because we have the fresh marks from last night on the ground. So it becomes obvious to me that we should not discount looking in the vicinity of wallows in summer. This is perhaps the biggest challenge in summer, and that's the noise the forest floor makes when we walk on it. It requires a lot of thought on how I'm going to approach an area, how to get there quietly with the minimum amount of noise. We can't be silent, but we need to keep that noise down, because when we walk through here, every deer's going to hear you coming, particularly sambar with those great big flappers called ears. Pretty dry, horrible looking country, isn't it, eh? It's not that the deer aren't here. It's summer, the deer are here. We've got tracks on the ground, which obviously indicates the deer are here. The problem we have here is, in this dry, hot weather, that's impossible to stalk. It's just going to be so noisy in there. So we have to modify our technique and where we're going to hunt. We've got to avoid those dry, hard ridges where it's very, very noisy. Unless, of course, we have a good rain event that quietens things down, then we can go back to hunting gullies like this.
I'm not sitting here by accident. Someone's made this. You see a saw cut here, bit of old timber. Very handy seat. Very handy rifle rest. Haven't got a rifle. I can't show you. Haven't got a rifle. Oh, I could use a stick, I suppose. Yep. Anyway, this seat and this rest overlooks a dam at about 50 metres in the bush. It's an old cattle dam from when they ran cattle through this country. It is, from time to time, visited by Sambar. This is probably why someone's gone to the trouble to build this to watch the water. There's also a big clearing down here. This is the view from the rough hide that someone's built. Water. How important is it to Sambar deer in the summer? Probably not as important as a lot of people think. It's been my experience that in general summer weather, they're not frequenting the water every day. That's obvious from the lack of deer tracks around dams and around soaks. However, I have noticed that when you get 3 or 4 days in those mid 30 degrees Celsius, the visitation to the water increases. If they required a lot of water, one would expect a lot of fresh deer tracks at soaks like this. And it's not always the case. There's old deer tracks here. This soak runs down for probably 50 metres. It doesn't have fresh deer tracks at it, it has old deer tracks at it. So far, this has been a mild summer. We've had quite a few rain events, which is obvious from the puddle on the road. Now, a mild summer is different than a drought. In drought conditions, the Sambar will behave differently than they do in this mild summer weather. They don't have a high need for water in weather like this. They can do quite well off the moisture in the vegetation. This is evidence from their droppings. The droppings are hard, they're compacted, all the moisture sucked out of it. Wildfire in country like this, probably our biggest risk, there's no question about it. It is our biggest risk, particularly when we get those big strong winds that can accompany it. They can start at almost any time. They can start either through lightning strike or accidentally lit or deliberately lit. One thing that I recommend people in this time of year, campfires. We don't need a campfire this time of year. It's warm weather, we can get by without a campfire. Have a look at this. I did have an occasion where I shared a camping area with some other people. It was suggested to them not to have a fire. Anyway, after I'd gone to bed, they lit a fire, didn't they? They knew better. Yeah. I watched the next morning when I got up, the wind got up and rolled a piece of paper past their fire that they thought had gone out. The paper caught on fire and went through the long grass. There was a lot of tap dancing to put that bugger out, I can tell you. In Victoria, we have a fire rating called catastrophic. It's not a good time. Don't be in the bush in catastrophic weather. If you have the fire, it's coming your way. You know what that means, don't you? Not a good time. It's a good time to be somewhere safe. 2 weeks ago, one of my friends backpacked into the high country, lightning strikes, 3 fires that he could see from where he'd walked in, and he made a very good decision. He left. He walked out. He probably had a 3-hour walk to his car, watching helicopters go past, water buckets underneath the work. No, it's no laughing matter. Just watch the weather. Watch for those thunderstorms. They are very serious in this country. These blackened trees, and what caused it, they're not a reason to stay out of the bush. They're just a reason to be fire smart. Is it worth coming to the mountains in Victoria to hunt Sambar deer in summer? Probably not if you're after a trophy stag, because the majority of stags won't be in hard antler at the moment. Some will be, but not the majority. I've been here for a little over a week making this video. I've seen a few deer. I've managed to photograph a couple. So it's been rewarding for me. But we've got to put this into context. This is a mild summer. It's still January. It's mild. It's not one of those extreme summers we can get. It's not one of those really serious fire seasons. It's not stinking hot. It's been good. So it's been driven by the weather. It's been driven by a mild summer. I've had a really good time. Coming back next week. We might finish with an odd mistake or two, commonly called bloopers. Not easy doing this. Not easy. It's actually easier now. It's easier to hunt deer than to make a bloody video. Another take without the camera turned on. We better check. Ah, you little red light showing. That's one of the reasons I come. I had to spray the weeds too, but that's beside the point. It certainly is beside the point, Peter. Why'd you put that in? Bugger if I know.
That caused me to have a second look at stump there under the tree. I went, oh goodness. Yeah, but it wasn't.
Take 2, 3. This old wallow. Well, that's incorrect. It's not old. Right. And why don't you get it right, Peter? It's going on and on. Gut.